It is great to be here. I'm Kyle Schulz. I am World Business Chicago's Chief Growth Officer. And in my capacity, I wear a number of hats. The business development, making sure that this economy retains its tax base, but also grows it with new inclusive jobs like climate, green, and sustainable. Our workforce features, our regional partnership that brings World Business Chicago across the 7 counties. And today, as part of this conversation, our newly announced Chicagoland Climate Investment Alliance. This alliance has taken a good chunk of the year to bring together, and thankfully we'll hear from some of the partners who helped make that possible today. But the alliance's focus really is to ensure that Chicagoland remains the global leader in climate innovations and solutions by bringing together all the pieces that make this economy so special in the climate world and working together, coordinating together, and breaking down those silos. So really fortunate to have 4 amazing friends and partners who are going to embark on this work with me to share their journey, share what their companies are doing, and why they believe in this alliance and what it'll do. So I'll start with Meena. Do you want to introduce yourself, your role, and kind of how you guys fit into this great equation?
Yes, thank you, Kyle. So excited to be here. I'm Meena Beyers, Vice President of Business and Community Development at Nicor Gas. Nicor Gas serves 2.3 million customers across northern Illinois, and we know we're a critical part of the region's clean energy economy. But how we fit into this space is a couple of ways with clean tech investment. One is that we do have a path to net zero in our own business and helping our customers and supporting their sustainability goals. So we're always looking for those new technologies that are going to help us with our own efforts. But we also know we play a big role in economic development here. So we love investing in the startups of today that are going to be our booming job creators for tomorrow.
Do you want to give a shout out to some of those startups that you've partnered with?
Yeah, there's so many here, but we're so excited to see. I saw Gary Ung from Celadine here, Aaron Rose from Rose Carbon is here, Sophia from Blip, and Kazadi. Sansa did his presentation today. And of course, our most recent awardee with our partnership with Evergreen Climate Innovations, Dr. Ryan Hackler, who you maybe heard during lunch from Eternal Upcycling. So super exciting to see all of them here today.
Awesome. I will come back to you because I want to talk more about the economic development work and how that ties into everything that we're talking about today. But I want to introduce my newest friend, Josephine Tucker, who flew in today to join us and actually had some very exciting things to say about this summit versus some of the other ones she's been. So Josephine?
Oh, you put me on the spot
I
there,
did.
Kyle.
Don't ever let me give good pieces.
Well, I'm going to circle back to that. So first, intros. I'm Josephine Tucker. I am the head of sustainable infrastructure at JLL. We're a global real estate company, so we invest in, occupy, lease and buy real estate on behalf of our clients. And we have a vested interest in climate action because 40% of emissions come from the building sector. What people may not realize is that a huge majority of JLL's emissions are actually scope 3. So it's imperative that we actually help our clients achieve their goals. So I'm really proud to say that we have a more than 1,000 person sustainability business that's really focused on delivering end-to-end solutions. Everything from energy efficiency programs to decarbonization pathways, installing on-site solar, EV chargers, microgrids, you name it. So really excited to participate in this summit. And the quick anecdote to come back to you, I was at Climate Week in New York, and I have to say, I get more and more frustrated every time I attend it. And I'm so loving this event versus that. Just great to see the energy and everyone in one place. Much more.
Yeah, that's worth clapping for. Erik, would you like to introduce yourself and the incredible impact that Evergreen's had?
Yeah, so good afternoon, Erik Birkerts, CEO of Evergreen Climate Innovations. Paul Seidler, who was on the panel immediately beforehand, sort of spoke about our activities providing catalytic capital and support to climate entrepreneurs. But one other kind of component of what we do is what we call ecosystem development. So we spend a lot of time convening and bringing the different stakeholders in Chicago and the broader Midwest region together to kind of build that connective tissue between all these great actors. And if you think about the Midwest and you think about Chicago, we've got world-class universities, we've got 2 national labs, within easy driving distance from where we are today. We've got a density of Fortune 500 companies, and we've got like a deep STEM educated workforce. So there is no reason we can't really be the world epicenter for a lot of the great innovation in and around climate technology. So excited about the Alliance because it gets at the need to bring everybody and all these assets together to kind of work in concert.
Yeah. And one of the important parts about the Alliance is collecting, gathering, bringing together ecosystem partners like Evergreen, corporate leaders like JLL and Nicor to support leaders like Saeed. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm actually the beneficiary of everything you described. So I'll take credit for that. I'm Saeed Al-Hallaj. I'm the founder and CEO of NETenergy. We're actually a member of MHub. I see a lot of MHub people here. Raise your hands. Come on, make some waves. All right. So we're actually, I'm a research professor at the University of Chicago, and we try to take technology from the lab to the marketplace. We have not made global waves, but we have been very successful, at least going through that, benefiting from organizations like Evergreen and what you're doing, Kyle, and your team, which is to bring attention to what we're doing. We have incredible workforce, we have incredible facility, and as a founder and entrepreneur, I feel like we're blessed to have that. And I encourage everybody to take advantage of the resources and come and join us in Chicago.
Awesome. Josephine, I'll turn the first question to you. About a year ago, Michael Polsky, who was the keynote for today's summit, came to World Business Chicago and said, this is a transformational moment for everything related to climate. What are you doing? How are you organizing yourself to take advantage of all of the federal funding, all of the new companies that are ready to make significant investment? From that first conversation, we came to the Alliance, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but how do you see this moment? How, as you do your work with JLL, are you approaching this moment, advising companies? Talk us through what that looks like for you.
Well, first and foremost, I mean, the IRA has been widely recognized as the most transformational incentive package in US climate history, maybe in just, political history overall. It is a massive funding opportunity. I think we're still figuring out how to get those dollars out the door and into, projects. But, essentially the amount of flexibility and the supportive technologies that package represents is an opportunity you wouldn't want to miss. So I think being able to participate in an alliance like this and making sure that Chicago and the greater region gets its fair share of federal funding is certainly something that I'm passionate about. And with Chicago being headquartered, or with JLL being headquartered here in Chicago, we certainly feel greatly aligned to that purpose. In terms of what we're doing with our clients, I have not had a moment's breath. The phone is ringing constantly, emails, whatever. All of our clients across the public and the private sector are trying to figure out, how do we get our hands on the tax incentives, the subsidies? How do we position our projects to be the most competitive? So, it's about making sure that you've got a good business case, making sure that you understand which financing channels make the most sense for what you're trying to achieve. And I think that's something that, my team can certainly help with, but plenty of folks in the room as well.
Yeah. Eric, for you, the same question. As one of those centralizing forces of this ecosystem, how are you seeing your work evolve or change in this moment of time?
Yeah, so we were formed in 2010. Actually, it was Michael Polsky, who at the time was similarly frustrated that the region was punching below its weight. And the very first kind of tranche of funding that we received was the DOE grant around ecosystem development. And we've always had either a grant in-house from the Department of Energy or from EDA or from SBA. But these grants were always, they're like 100K, maybe 250K, and we were able to go after them as a discrete kind of entity, right? Today, when you look at the grant programs out there, they are multiples of those kind of previous grants. They're millions of dollars. And the expectation is rather than going after them as a discrete entity, you form sort of consortia and coalitions to go after these big dollars. And unless you have some sort of organizing mechanism like this alliance, forming those coalitions can be really difficult under these tight timeframes that these grants often require. So like having this in place is just going to be like a total accelerant to Chicago being able to get some of this federal money.
And we've seen that brought to life, especially with those tight timelines, as we look at the Build Back Better Regional Grant Challenge or the ARPA-H opportunity. They require a broader perspective than I think a lot of times we're used to, especially as we're so focused on maybe our day-to-day. Meena, kind of what thoughts do you have about this question and kind of this moment in time from where you
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a common theme today is that it's just this inflection point, right? Especially in the energy sector. You know, like Michael said during his fireside chat, this is a time of energy transformation. And when we think about what makes our region so strong, think about all of the energy sources that we really have to provide or meet the demand of our growing economy. Everything from nuclear, you know, gas, electricity, wind, solar, you know, soon to be hydrogen, we hope. So I think, you know, as we think about the need for collaboration and the opportunity to lean into the ecosystem, this is the right time because the technology is here, the organizations are here, and now we just have to connect to figure out how do we take action.
Saeed, you've been the benefit of working within this ecosystem, axing it. With all these startups here today, advice that you can share, perspective on how they can use all the incredible resources that this immediate market offers to help them grow and be successful and help lead this transition?
Yeah, so actually it takes a long time, like Paul and most of the investors said, you have to build a relationship. And, you know, Evergreen was the first to stand up and help us many years ago with our first seed investment. And then they nominated us for national competition where we went a ton of money to demonstrate our technology with National Lab and Wells Fargo. And then it took us a while to demonstrate it, but recently when this push, we were not new starters. So we just, it's not public yet, but I can speak about it. We just won awards from DOE with Train, with Emerson, with DOD. We're doing field demonstration next year with military bases, with supermarkets in the East Coast. So we were not waiting to start. So when the opportunities came, like you described, we're actually hitting the ground running. But that took a lot of work and patience because you have to be ready, not outrun the market or behind the market.
That part of the idea behind the Alliance is to be able to take all those success stories we have and help uplift them so that the success breaks through. Meena, one of the things that always stood out for me from our initial conversation was the investment Nicor has in helping to uplift the next generation of startups and giving them access. Do you want to just talk about that, given the fact that we have a room full of startups who'd want to potentially apply next year?
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, we are pretty new at that, but as a part of Southern Company, that's our parent company, you know, R&D and investment in new technologies is in our company's DNA. We operate in 7 states, and we're really just starting to do some of that in Illinois and with Nicor Gas. And you know, when we talk about the ecosystem here and the Alliance partners, I mean, how we got started in it was partnering with Erik and Evergreen Climate Innovations to really understand what are the needs and really even start to understand, let's talk to some startups, let's understand how can we help. And in a business like ours where you're regulated utilities, you can't always you know, deploy capital right into a startup, but you know, whether it's our partners or the startups we work with through Evergreen, or last year we had the pleasure of sponsoring mHub's first Climate and Clean Tech Accelerator. With those opportunities, a lot of it is, you know, we're trying to make connections for you. We're trying to find pilot opportunities for you across all of the states that we operate in. And then we serve the 3rd largest industrial base in the country here. So being able to leverage those connections to those hard to decarbonize sectors is something we focus on. So that's really what we're trying to lean into when we're trying to support startups in the region.
Awesome. Josephine, Meena brought up the multi-states that they serve. As someone who doesn't call Chicago home, what perspective do you see from other markets? What are some learnings we can take away from those? I think Michael Fosnacht's opening notes this morning about acknowledging where we are weak and accepting some of the challenges we had ahead of us would be really interesting to hear from you on what that looks like and what are some things we should be thinking about.
Yeah, well, you know, one thing I would say is we just did some research on essentially, you know, looking at where all of our clients' carbon commitments are today and what that means for the building sector. And essentially, there's a startling gap in supply and demand when it comes to, you know, low carbon building stock that's going to be prepared to meet a lot of 2030, 2040 goals. And the competitiveness, I would say, of the built environment really differs on that criteria from one city to the next. And while from a grid perspective, actually the Chicago region is doing better than most because you have a lot of nuclear and wind, so you're kind of starting from a better base there. But in terms of the physical environment, the building stock is very old, it's not that efficient. And so when we talk about getting our clients' real estate portfolios to net zero, there's going to be a very significant lift. But with great challenge comes great opportunity, and I think that things like heat pumps and energy efficiency mechanisms can really go a long way. There's some small things that we can do to really improve.
Yeah, Erik, Josephine brought up the decarbonization, making sure the built world is more efficient. As we look at this alliance and all of the opportunities that come with this transformation, what are some of those subsectors that you think Chicagoland has a unique advantage in?
Oh man, Saeed could probably speak more knowledgeably than I can, but the battery kind of value chain is one area. We have Argonne National Laboratory, 20 miles to the west.
Yeah.
I mean, massive, research hub around advanced batteries. Goshen just announced that they're building a gigafactory. Nanograph, Paul referenced, they're building a production facility about a mile west of here. The automotive kind of value chain is, just a little east of us. Yesterday we had Patrick Hunt, formerly of Rivian, now at a company called NETenergy, talking about research they did as to where the activity is around energy storage, and it runs up and down I-75, right?
Yep.
North to south, and so we are right in the sort of that center of all of that. So I think energy storage is just a huge area where we can really play a dominant role.
I like how you started with pointing to Saeed and then ended it with my bridge to Saeed.
Yeah.
Since we got connected originally around battery storage and battery technology, same question to you.
Yeah, so actually, one of the All-Cell, which a company that I started, and you were one of the part, and it got acquired last year by Beam Global, which is an infrastructure company that provide EV charging off-grid. And one of the things that we want to keep them here, but we want to actually create the infrastructure for EV infrastructure, which we started in Chicago probably 10 years ago, and more than that. And now the question is, we want to test those. We want a place to showcase. We want to bring other people. And I'm going to be blunt, we're not doing enough on that side. We have our infrastructure for R&D, but when it comes to doing it where the market wants, we're not doing enough, in my opinion, to get to the level where we can tell everybody, look, we're going to have a place where you're not just a develop and manufacturer, but a test lab that you can go in the marketplace and say, here's the infrastructure, here's the, we talked about, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana highway. We have not done that.
Yeah.
We need to do that, and we need to do it quickly to attract not just business, but also people who are actually committed to that mission.
I think part of the attracting the business requires that consortium. When we pitch Chicago, we don't have the most compelling tax incentives that we buy an economy. And oftentimes the built world that Josephine referenced limits the options that we have that you can just put yourself where you want to be. But what we do have that I think is better than anywhere else in this country is an ecosystem of people willing to work together and support each other and make sure that we are all part of the same Chicago pitch. And one of the things that was evident early on as we started this journey to this investment alliance was to bring together this ecosystem. Saeed and I participated in a roundtable back in February where we had 30 individuals come together. People knew of each other, they knew the company, what they were doing, but no one had ever met together. So this is a question that I'll ask each of you. How do we help break down those silos? How do we start to merge those? Meena, you're the most warm, bubbly person I know. So I'll start with you as kind of providing those examples and ideas of how we start all taking today's summit and doing it on a daily basis.
Yeah, well, I think what we have found, or at least what I have found, is our ecosystem in this region is second to none, and it is because of all of the great people in it. And so I think taking the time to learn about different sectors, I think the Alliance provides this opportunity to bring unlikely sectors together to really start to talk around problem statements, right? So instead of choosing, the silo that we know in and the world that we know, learning about other sectors and thinking, how can we connect to that, and how might we work together to to solve a problem that we didn't know we share.
Josephine, what was awesome about Meena's point was yesterday when we were talking with some of the media outlets and they were asking who was part of it and we said JLL, their response was, why? Why would JLL be part of this?
Give me their names.
We'll make sure we get you connected. But for you all, to Meena's point, you have a multi-sector view for where JLL sits, so.
Well, I have to say, first of all, she stole my answer. You stole my notes. I mean, my perspective on this is that we really need a top-down and a bottom-up approach. Alliances like this are so important because they foster, well, they provide a mechanism to foster those relationships across different sectors, across different types of organizations, people at different levels of organizations, entrepreneurs, startups, investors. So that is absolutely critical. But the mechanism isn't, where the buck stops. You need individuals. And, to your point before, it's about the mindset. Intellectual curiosity and how you show up every day. I might be in this role right now, but I have no idea, where I'll be tomorrow. So everybody that I meet, every opportunity that I have to collaborate, I'm trying to bring as fresh a perspective as I can. And I think, that certainly helps. In terms of, the JLL kind of global footprint, we represent all different asset classes. So it's not just buildings. We also, have a heavy footprint in the industrial space, in the infrastructure space. And so, when I first came on board, I saw an opportunity really to position real estate as the nexus of clean energy, infrastructure, and the real estate sector. And I think having that kind of mindset and not just saying, oh, we're a buildings business, really helps.
Erik, Josephine set up my view of our partnership, the Alliance and Evergreens, perfectly. When we started exploring this, it was the ability to expand our collaboration. So love that you all are bridging up the next part of my question. So same for you. How do we break the silos?
I mean, a great example is, sort of this cross-industry kind of pollination. So we interact with MISO, which is the Midwest, independent system operator. They run the grid, in this part of the country. And they've been struggling with this challenge that, people are putting rooftop solar on their homes, there's battery installations, there's EV charging, there's suddenly, all of this activity on the grid that never used to be there. And their job is to keep the grid balanced, right? So now they're facing all of these variables, all this data, and they're like, we need to figure out how to do this really intelligently. They met at one of our events, some people from United Airlines, right? United has a huge network operations center in Willis, right? Where they're looking globally at all their aircraft, there's storms, there's weather delays, there's equipment failures, there's just congestion, and United is managing their operation. So MISO, which is managing electrons, is talking to United about how they're managing aircraft, and they're actually exchanging, really, really valuable perspectives to each other, right? And it's that kind of cross-industry, kind of spontaneous, kind of connection that really adds a lot of value to this kind of convening power that the Alliance has, so.
Convening power, the ecosystem, I think this is all feeding back perfectly to your brand. Thoughts?
Yeah. So it's all beautiful, it's all good, but Kyle, when we sat in February, and now look at this event, look at these incredible people here, and ask yourself, how did this come about? You need people behind the scene, dedicated, to take this and work with everybody and get off on the phone, like Joanna called, like Saeed, we need you to do this. Sure, I'll do it. I didn't know what it is, I just said, sure. Said, see, Kyle, need you to do this. You guys can help this move forward. You know everybody, you know what's going on. You can connect between the government, the local, because everybody's busy. I have, as an entrepreneur, I'm working 24/7 to stay alive and grow and all that. But you can pick up the phone with everybody and make it happen. So I'm gonna ask you guys to continue to do this. The success of these initiatives depend on people, the term quarterbacks probably is overrated, but that's what it takes. You have incredible stars, you have everything you need. You guys need to deliver. And that's going to depend how far you take it, I'll be honest with you. I've been this for 25 years. You need a force behind it who does not take the credit, but is willing to actually stay up at night. Like you said, you were China working 24/7. I don't think I can do that, but hopefully with your help, we're going to get there.
And that's the role that WBC wants to play, recognizing that our primary mission is to drive inclusive economic development for this city and this region. We have that unique convening power, whether it's the fact that Mayor Johnson is the chair of our board of directors, our close proximity with President Preckwinkle and the 6 other county chairs, or the governor, as you saw him contribute a video today because he couldn't be here with us in person. With us leading the way, for all of you, since you're all important parts of this, why the Alliance? Why did you want to make this bet? And where do you hope it'll be in the next year if we were to host this summit again next year? Being conscious that we have a 2-minute warning here as well. So if we can keep our answers a little more pithy, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us that it is to get deeper with those cross connections. And I think a year from now, we'll hopefully start to see some partnerships.
Opportunity for economic development, fostering the ecosystem, and then I think creating a pipeline of talent.
Yeah, I just, we need to, there's still very much of this flyover country kind of challenge that we face. And just the more that Alliance can work to sort of plant our own flag and have people come to us to see what's happening here, that's key.
Take advantage of Mike's enthusiasm. Keep doing what we're doing, and hopefully next year you'll see us exponentially getting a better place.
With the last minute we have, I am legally obligated by my employment at WBC to ask this question. Why do you love Chicago? What makes you passionate about Chicago?
Yeah,
it can't be deep dish pizza.
No, it's not. It's the people, right? It's our communities and the people that love to hustle.
Oh, she stole my answer again. And the friends that I made at this event through the Alliance.
We've got a time machine. That's O'Hare Airport. You can get, no, seriously, you can get anywhere in the world with a direct flight, right? That is huge.
And it is a time machine, having traveled home from China and somehow I landed 2 hours before I took off.
Yeah, so.
Saeed, final thoughts?
As a researcher, top-notch universities, researchers, students, incubators, and national labs, and the people actually, which is the top of everything. Incredible support of nice people.
Awesome. Everyone, thank you all for being part of this. Thank you for committing to the Alliance. Thank you all. And please join me in giving a big clap.